Reviewing bids is really the moment of truth. You know, you've been working on this project, as an example, for 6 months. You put together the drawings, you create a design, you create a facility, and you have a vision of where you're going, and you have an expectation of what the dollar amount is. You know, typically when you go into a bid process of any sort, you have an expectation. You know, so we're not just shooting in the dark. But the actual day of actually getting the bids in is kind of the heart-rending moment there. So this is a defining moment, and it's an interesting process, and it's interesting trying to decide what your expectations ought to be in that. So let's say, as an example, that you've had 5 contractors bid it. Okay, and I would suggest that if you're doing a competitive bid, and this is what we're talking about right now, as a competitive bid, that you limit to no more than 5 contractors. Beyond that point, it gets to be just a nightmare keeping track of. But let's say you have 5 contractors. In an ideal situation, you're going to have a spread of numbers. And more often than not, you'll have one guy that's really high, you'll have one guy that's low, and you'll have 2 or 3 people in the middle. And that would be the ideal situation. And the spread might be as much as 10 or 20% between from the low to the high. You know, it could be that far. We'd hope it wouldn't be, but it could be. In an ideal situation, your spread's going to probably be at least 5 or 10%. So, let's say you're looking for $1 million project. You could have, one guy come in at 900,000 and another guy come in at 1,000,001, and that would not be out of the range because that's not a gigantic spread. But having said that, the real challenge is not to go with a low guy, because you're looking at it and you go, you know what, this is a hell of a deal. This guy is way down low. I'm going to go jump in there and take it. Now, chances are there's a reason why he's low. He's not low because he's got particular insight. I mean, he might be a brilliant guy, but chances are he's low because he's either hungry or he's forgotten something. Okay, so it looks like a really good idea, but from my point of view, I go back to the old adage once again, there's no such thing as a free lunch. And if you're looking for a free lunch, you're going to get burned. Okay, so that contractor that came in low, he's looking at his spread between where his number is and the next guy up. Okay, and he's looking at that and he sees that he's 100,000 low. Well, he knows in his heart that he's either made a $100,000 mistake or he needs to go pick up 100,000 because he's way too low. He's not being competitive. It's like a used car dealer selling a car for too little. So he's going to want to go back and find that money. Okay. On the other end, the contractor that's way high, well, the heck with him. I mean, if you missed it by that far, then he isn't accurate to the process. And why would you spend that much money? Okay. So what you really want to do is reach into the middle. And the middle is where the validity is. These people, if they're all within 2 or 3%, that's telling you that these people are on target, okay? That they're all in the same vicinity, that nobody's left something out that's significant, or nobody's trying to gouge you. So you can go in there and pick any one of those people in the middle and be safe, okay? Now, on the other side of it, let's say you have 5 contractors and there is no middle. Now, what that is telling you and your architect is that there's something wacky in the process here, okay? That there's not a consensus as to what this thing is worth. And that would have a tendency to lead to you to ask, what is missing, what's wrong with this process? Now, I wouldn't say to you that you have to throw out all the bids and do it again, but you need to dig into the bids and see what you have, okay? So in our typical process, what we usually do is do a spreadsheet of all the bids, and I'll break out all the bids into, we call it 16 categories, okay, which represents the different categories of the building, and then compare those across the board, okay. Now, when you do that, you're going to find that there is significant disparity between the specific categories from bid to bid, but with time, with your architect and working with the contractor, you can go through there and see where you can recombine the categories to make them all match. So what you want to do is get them into a spot where you are apples to apples, okay? And then once you've done that, you can start to zero in on what is the accurate number? What is the number that this building realistically should cost? And the neat side to that conversation is that in working through these bids and comparing them, you're starting to understand more about the contractor. Is he a workable individual? Is he combative? Can he flex with you? Does he go to your church? All these things become part of the process. It's a synergy, a total context that you're looking for here. So you're learning more about his numbers, but probably more importantly, you're learning more about his attitude, how he's going to treat you in the process. So you might find out that the person that you are drawn to isn't the low guy, or isn't even the low of the middle, or there is no middle, but that these people are, he might even be toward the high end, but he might become the better value. And that's what you're looking for is value and aptitude.